What's up, everybody? Hope you're doing well today. I'm Paul Hickey with NoOffSeason.com, and I'm also the host of the Sports Card Strategy Show, which you can see at SportsCardStrategy.com. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel and join the Facebook group there by going to SportsCardStrategy.com. Today, we're going to talk about F1 cards and specifically Lewis Hamilton as well. And I am learning about F1 cards. I don't know that much about F1 cards, so please don't murder me in the comments. What you can do, though, is offer your insights, and that would be very, very helpful. But what I can tell you is that we are starting to get a lot more questions about F1 cards, specifically the 2020 Topps Chrome set, which is the most popular F1 cards right now, and the price of those cards keep rising. Not only the individual singles of those cards, but of course the sealed hobby boxes that are still in existence and have not been opened yet. So because we are getting more and more questions about F1 and we want to lead the way in sports card investing content at NoOffSeason.com, we're going to jump in today and dig into a little research we did. And thanks to Greg L. In the Facebook group, for bringing this to our attention. His question basically was, and I love the way that he frames this question. He's basically like, let's say I have a $2,000 budget. Should I, A, buy a Topps Chrome F1 2020 box and open it? B, buy it and not open it? C, buy a Lewis Hamilton PSA 10 card and keep it? Or D, buy $2,000 worth of different graded cards? So let's dig into this, and let's say that you make the decision that you want to spend $2,000 on F1 cards, because I think that the answer is to spend $2,000 on different cards, and you could check out the Sports Card Investment Report at NoOffSeason.com/invest, and you can see who the number one ranked athlete is there, and what I would do with his cards. So that's my real answer. But let's say, for the sake of this discussion, that we're just going to do $2,000 worth of F1 cards, and how would we spend that? First of all, the box to buy. Let's make sure that you'd be buying the right box, right? So it would be the 2020 Topps Chrome Formula One Racing Cards Hobby Box, right? So the hobby box is going for around $2,000, but actually, if you look on eBay, right now, and today's February 10th, 2020, when I'm filming this, the hobby boxes are actually going for more like $2,500. So you've got like a $2,500 hobby box here. You can bid on hobby boxes. You can get in breaks on hobby boxes. Like here's one being sold, and there's still 4 days left, and it's already up to $1,925, and there's 20 bids on it. So there's no way that one's going to go for less than, I'd say $2,100, $2,200, $2,300. I'd say that's easily a $2,500 purchase right there, if I had to guess today. You've got people, here's one, $2,270, free shipping from Japan. Not sure when you would get that if you live in the U.S. But anyway, the idea of buying a sealed hobby box, I would say do that with your $2,000, $2,500 if you don't really know F1, or if you're not really that interested in F1. Meaning, like, you don't know who the drivers are, you're not going to follow the sport, you're not like a real fan, you're really just doing this as an investment. I would say I would go that route. I would go the route of buy it, keep it sealed, forget it. There's a good chance that thing could, I would say, even 10x within the next 5 to 10 years. The popularity of this sport is growing. There's more and more Netflix content coming out. There's, gotta say, 80% of the sports fan population hasn't even tuned in to the Netflix documentary yet. And when that starts to happen, which I do think it will, I think the popularity of this sport is going to continue to blow up. I like what I see of the format of this sport. I think that the seasonality is right with the way that they break down the seasons. We've got another season coming up here in March, and that season will go through November, and we just ended one. So there's only really like a couple months off, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 90 days to 2 months. Maybe 3 months off, 90 days, 60 to 90 days off. Anyway, that's far less off time than the NFL off season, the NBA off season, and the MLB off season. So I think that this sport has it right from a fan perspective. From a sports card perspective, it seems to be the perfect sport. Like I said, if you're a sports card investor and you're not going to really follow it, my answer would be buy a box and not open it. I would say that regardless of who you are, unless you're a breaker, and if you are a breaker, you're probably getting these at far less, hopefully, than the $2,500 price point. But unless you're a breaker, don't buy it and open it. Like, I think that you probably would get crushed on your investment if you buy it and open it, because basically what you're doing there is you're needing to sell a bunch of cards raw to try to make your money back, and or spend additional money on grading fees to try and get your money back. And if you're not really a fan and you're not really following F1, then you're probably not going to really know when to list a card and when to sell a guy, or who to hold, who to keep, because it's really about, F1 is no different than any other sport in that you are needing to prospect and you're needing to buy low and sell high. And the only way that you can really buy low and sell high is if you really, really understand the sport. You really understand the NBA or the NFL or Major League Baseball and the prospecting of the minor league guys. And so I would not buy a box and open it at all, regardless of who you are, unless you're a breaker. Now let's take a look at the Lewis Hamilton cards, because I think that what I'm torn on and I want to sort of analyze with you is what would actually be the better option if you're sort of into F1 and you really want to play in the space as a sports card investor, right? Like you're interested in Max Verstappen, you're interested in Lando Norris, you're obviously interested in Lewis Hamilton. That's who everybody wants. So what does that look like, right? So, I mean, first of all, what I like about the checklist, and definitely go to cardboardconnection.com to check out the full checklist, is that there are a lot of different ways to get cards of your favorite drivers from within this set. So there's a lot of different plays that can be made. And so, for example, there's inserts, there's a bunch of different parallels, there's autographs, there's a 200 base checklist card. According to Cardboard Connection, there's, gold out of 50s, gold waves out of 50s, oranges out of 50s, orange waves out of 25, reds out of 5. There's a super fractor 1 of 1, printing plate 1 of 1, 70th anniversary parallels, regular base refractors that are not numbered. But all of these cards, even the base cards are going for a lot of money. We'll take a look at that in a second. We're going to use Lewis Hamilton as sort of a baseline for that, because he's the main chase, the main guy that everyone's going after. And then we'll take a look at different plays that can be made here with F1. But one thing that kind of struck me is that there's 20 F1 drivers in this set. And then what they also do, and they each have a base card, and then they also do F1 car cards. So for each car, they have a card, and then obviously the driver is featured on that card. Then there's F2 racers and F2 cards. Now the cool thing about buying the box and keeping it sealed is that these F2 racers are kind of the next wave of guys that could have cards that could be worth money one day, because they could be the next big driver. So the next Lewis Hamilton or the next Max Verstappen or Charles Leclerc or whatever could be in the F2 section of the checklist, and or the F2 car section of the checklist could become valuable in the future. So what's cool about buying a box and keeping it sealed is that essentially what you're doing is you're not only buying the inaugural set of this Topps Chrome F1 F1 checklist, but you're also buying the inaugural set of like the equivalent of what would be a Bowman Chrome first within that, right? Because these are prospects. These drivers down here are prospects, and nobody's talking about them yet. But what's interesting about that is that, these could be the next guys. So I haven't taken a look at their individual card prices yet in terms of the F2 racers. But one thing I do know, just from experience in other sports, is that there's a good chance that if you buy these hobby boxes and keep them sealed, and if you're able to be patient and keep them sealed for the next, say, 5 to 10 years, the prices of those hobby boxes should go up, because true F1 fans will be like, oh, there was a Marcus Armstrong back when he was an F2, and now he's the best F1 driver, and everyone's wanting to go back and get his Topps Chrome 2020 F2 card, which is pretty sick. And then you've got additional ways to get like Lewis Hamilton, right? So you've got I'm going to assume that the F1 and F2 crew cards aren't really worth that much, but I mean, who knows? I could be wrong on that. But then you've got like the winners. So you've got Grand Prix winner cards. Yeah, another section of F1 racers in the checklist. So there's two, according to this, there's two sections of F1 racers in this checklist. So there's two different sets of F1 racers within the checklist, within the box. And then there's F1 award winners. So basically, what the point is of all of this is that there's like 20 different Lewis Hamilton base cards in here, if I counted correctly. There's like basically around 20 different Lewis Hamilton base cards that you could get within this F1 set. The base image variations refractor set checklist is here. I'm not going to read that to you. I'd recommend you check out Cardboard Connection before you do any true buying here on eBay. But I did want to take a look over at MarketMoversApp.com by Sports Card Investor, because they are a sponsor of the show. And if you use the promo code NOOFFSEASON, all lowercase, you can save 20% off MarketMoversApp.com, which is the premium version of Sports Card Investor. But just if we look at, okay, maybe you don't want to buy a box and keep it sealed for 5 to 10 years. I totally understand how that just kind of doesn't really scratch the itch. I mean, maybe you are a true investor and you're okay doing that, but you want to have a little bit more fun making plays. That's kind of more my style anyway. There are individual plays you could make with your $2,000, and one thing I would recommend is not blowing your entire load all at one time with F1. So if you set yourself a $2,000 budget, like I'd like to see you manage that bankroll a little bit differently. I'd like to see you incorporate some bankroll management best practices here so that you can play maybe more with some house money and not be $2,000 in the hole like you would be buying a box or one big card. So I would say my true answer to the question is that I would recommend that you play a little bit in the space and buy one or two cards first, and then see how their value does over time and try to flip them. So right now, the base Lewis Hamilton Topps Chrome PSA 10 has most recently sold for $620. Now that's up 12% over the last 30 days. And if you look at the SGC version, that actually happens to be down 8%, which is interesting. Now, there's a potential play there. If you can get your hands on an SGC, if you're really into making plays, get your hands on an SGC 10 mint for less than $300 and have it crossover graded with PSA for $50, and you could double your money if you go from an SGC 10 to a PSA 10. I'm not saying that's the way to go, but I'm saying that that is interesting that the SGC 10 is selling for so much less than the PSA 10 at this point in time, because I think over the long haul, you probably will see the price gap close a little bit on those those grading companies across all sports. So anyway, PSA 10, the value is up. So I would expect that trend to continue with the PSA 10. So if I'm going to say like that's a potential buy for me. Now the pop count is going to be pretty large on the base, I would think, over time. You're going to see more and more base Lewis Hamilton PSA 10. So if we take a look at the Topps Chrome Sapphire Edition refractor. Now, my understanding is that the Sapphire Edition is a different box, so I don't know that you could get Sapphire from the Topps Chrome box. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments here, but I think they're completely different boxes. But if we're looking at buying individual singles here, I do think it's interesting that, this card could be had for less than that $2,000 budget. And you can see the trend line is up and to the right on that card over the last 30 days. The SGC 10 mint is selling for about half the price of the PSA 10. So again, I think there's a big play if you want to go gem mint and go with SGC instead of PSA. You can actually save some money, give yourself some more potential room for profit there. Now the refractor is obviously a short print. I don't believe it's numbered. According to Cardboard Connection, you just have a refractor, but you don't. The regular refractor is not numbered. You got purple out of $3.99, gold out of $50. Those prices on those cards are going to be ridiculous. And actually, that's what you're going to be chasing within the box, right? You're not necessarily going to be buying those singles and trying to flip them because the prices on those are going to be pretty out of this world. Topps Chrome Formula One Track Tag PSA 10 going for about $400. It would be interesting to maybe try to get what I like. Okay, so another F1 play. As we're going through this, I'm going to point out what I think are some of the plays that you can make with your budget. I think that the difference between this raw for $58 and this PSA 10 for $400 tells me that a good play here would be to go out and try to buy maybe 3 or 4 raw track tag cards and try to get them graded at PSA for $50 each. So then you'd be spending like $100 per card, hoping to quadruple your money with the PSA 10. And I would think a PSA 9, there's no sales of a PSA 9. This is so new. According to, the eBay data, that the PSA 9, you might still be able to actually double your money if you don't quadruple it with the PSA 10. So I actually like that. Now, some of these cards are going to be quite out of our budget here, like the Sapphire Edition Aqua Refractor. One of those is sold in PSA 9 in the last 30 days. It's a $6,300 card. Interesting if you could go back to Sports Illustrated for kids and find, if you're able to find any of these on eBay or at a garage sale, a card show. I don't even know. If you're able to find, obviously, this, I would think this would be an amazing play because it would be considered as true rookie card back in 2009. It's selling raw right now for over $100. So that's a risk, and it's going to be hard to find that, obviously. So I don't, you can't sit at your desk like me and buy that very easily. Now the purple refractor, which according to Cardboard Connection is numbered to $399, is an interesting play as okay, I've got $2,000, I want to invest in this seriously. You could buy it raw with your budget. And I would think, depending on the condition, you should have it graded, because if you buy it raw for, say, if you're able to get it for $1,300, now you can send it to PSA and get it back in a couple months for $50. And, you've got a pretty good margin for profit. If you get a 9 on that, you've all of a sudden doubled your money. And if you get a 10 on that, not a whole lot of sales of this card in PSA 10. I can't imagine that there's very many of them. But that might be, this might have just become my number one play on this whole thing is to try to buy a purple refractor numbered to 399 raw and then just get it graded. If you've got money, if you've got a $2,000 budget on F1, that might be the way to go. I just got myself really excited about this potential play. Now there's a Topps Now card where the pricing is up and to the right, PSA 10. I'm not a huge fan of Topps Now. I'm just going to go ahead and say, cool card. I can't really see the price on this one continuing to trend in that direction. I know that Topps Now does have a limited print run, so that might be one reason why. But if I'm going to spend $1,000 on a PSA 10 card, I don't know that it's going to be a Lewis Hamilton Topps Now. That brand of Topps Now just kind of doesn't get a whole lot of respect. So I just don't know that I would personally put my money in that one. Here's another Sapphire edition, 70th anniversary, kind of a confetti looking in the back, selling raw for over $100. Again, I don't hate buying several of these raw for a few $100s. The short print variation is selling raw for $7,500, and I'm not sure exactly which one that is here in the checklist, or if it's it says it's not Sapphire. So again, kind of really learning about F1, and you can see here's kind of the Orange Wave refractor. Not a whole lot of sales of this one. I think a lot of people are keeping these, if I had to guess. So, I've walked you through a couple of F1 Lewis Hamilton plays in this video that I feel really good about. And one other question before I kind of close this out is that there is a gold, and I think it's in this checklist. Yeah, gold wave out of 50. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments if this isn't it. But the question came in and said from Greg L in the Facebook group, found a Lewis Hamilton gold out of 50, and this was the picture of it. And it's selling raw for $1,000, SGC 8.5 for $400, and I think there was a PSA 8 for right around the same price. I think Greg went ahead and bought the SGC 8.5 for $400, which I think is a good call. And the reason why the raw is selling for $1,000 is because people really want the chance at a PSA 10. Because the PSA 10 of this card, I think, would probably sell for close to 10x the raw of this because it's numbered out of 50. But to spend $400 and get an SGC 8.5 out of 50, knowing that there's only 50 of these cards, I don't hate the SGC play for that amount of money. I think as a single, that will appreciate in value over time. And so I really like that. Hopefully this has been helpful. I would love to know more about F1. So if any of you in the comments want to add anything intelligent and not rip me a new one for my lack of knowledge on F1, that would be great. What I'm trying to do is impart my sports card investment advice and what I see from a checklist standpoint, from a trend standpoint, and just from an overall knowing the sports card investment market and my little knowledge of F1, and kind of marry that together into a video that helps you invest in F1 if you have the interest and make the plays to earn you some profit. All right, thanks for watching. I'm Paul Hickey with NoOffSeason.com. Thanks again to the sponsor of our videos, MarketMoversApp.com by Sports Card Investor. Go there and save 20% by using the promo code NoOffSeason. And please check out our sports card investment report at NoOffSeason.com. Thanks again and have a great day.